I've been in this industry for 42 years, and it was very clear to me from the first day that my calling is to help people achieve their life goals and live a life of dignity and security.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Lomitech, and sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, and Birthright Excel, and in media partnership with CTech. Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders, and today we're going to be talking about financial planning for everyone. Meet Dan Dobry, Chairman of the Board, Global Net Israel. Dan was the founder of the Union of Financial Planners in Israel, UFPI, served as the first chairman and president of UFPI. He was the Global Council Representative for Israel for the Global Community, FPSB, from 2012 to 2018, and from January 2019 is a member of the Committee for Standards and Qualifications for the European Union, SQC. Dan Dobry, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders, all the way from London. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to talk to you about financial planning and not just in what that means, but also the way that it's shaped your career, a decades-long career, really understanding both working, on financial planning, but also, being the CEO of Global Investment Services, Solutions for Israeli Institutions, and then the president of the Union of Financial Planners in Israel, and now the chairman of the board of Global Net Israel Investment House. And so a lot of experience in financial planning and different organizations that are centered around that. And I'd love to both, understand your career a little bit better and the insights that you've gained from your career and the inspirations that you've drawn on throughout your career, but also begin a little bit, simpler and higher level about what is financial planning and why is it such an important field that drew you so deep into it? So what is financial planning and how did you get so involved with it?
Well, I've been in this industry for 42 years, and it was very clear to me from the first day that my calling is to help people achieve their life goals and live a life of dignity and security. So, I've been involved in the industry in almost every single, facet of it. So, I worked in an insurance company for a time. I worked in investment houses. I worked for the regulator. I work with the banks. So I've actually touched the industry I'm the clients from almost every aspect of the industry. So it was, and if you know that when I entered the industry 42 years ago, the industry was completely focused around selling products. So if you were a bank, they were selling bank products. An investment house, management of your portfolios. An insurance company, insurance products, pensions and stuff like that. So everyone was focused around products, and by the way, still is. Okay? Mm-hmm. It still is because the regulators don't regulate people, don't regulate families, they regulate products. So the way they think is always about products. It's very difficult to take them off that train tracks. Mm-hmm. Now, approximately 20-something years ago, I was in the States, and then I hit financial planning. Financial planning is something is a different way of thinking. So it's a movement from product to family. Instead of sitting down and trying to find out what products suit different families or people, basically financial planning looks at the family and tries to help them achieve their life goals using a methodology, an academic methodology for working with the family, which includes, first of all, understanding the economic side, the financial side of the family, income, expenses, assets, liabilities, cash flows, and life goals. Then building asset allocations, trying to build, how the investments need to look in order to achieve those life goals. Then a sensitivity study, a little bit of risk management, tax management, creating passive income, and then transfer of assets from generation to generation. But the most important thing about financial planning is working with the family. It's actually looking at you, trying to become part of your challenges, your life journey, in order to help you achieve what you want to achieve in your life. And we don't sell products, we look for solutions. And that's the difference. I was talking to one of my friends who was the vice regulator of Europe, and a Scottish guy called Ian, and he said to me, listen, Dan, the industry will never change until we stop talking about products and we start talking about solutions. We don't want to sell people stuff. We want to help people achieve their life goals using different kinds of solutions that we create for them.
Right.
So that's what financial planning is all about. It's a journey.
Just so that we understand, are we talking only about high net worth families that have lots of capital to be deployed and they're just not sure where to deploy it? Or is this a little bit of a broader idea that can be assimilated to different families with different socioeconomic positions?
Yeah. So financial planning has nothing to do about social economic, okay? Because basically everyone has life goals. Everyone wants to achieve something. Everyone wants to live a life. Everyone has challenges. The thing is that as you become more complicated, your challenges become more challenging. Sure. Okay, so naturally, a lot of high net worth or the high net worth individuals, basically have been working with financial planners for a long time. It's slowly coming down the ladder. It's nothing to do. Basically, the only issue around financial planning is, can you afford it? So I think that no financial planner sits down and says, I don't want to work with him, I do want to work with him. You just, like every other professional, you have to pay them. You have to remember, financial planner has a fiduciary standard, so he doesn't get commissions. And it's also, an issue of culture. So the client also has to accept the fact that he needs to pay the client directly, the planner directly, the professional. He pays them anyway, because you have to take into account when you're buying a product, the cost of that product is factored into the product. So if you're now getting advice, you don't need to pay the commissions. So it should be cheaper. So in the end, it's a culture thing, and it's I think that today more and more people are aware that they need this kind of help because the world has become more complicated. So anyway, it's moved down the ladder. And today, I would say, let's say not mass market, but mass affluent market. Okay. So if we're looking at people who are retiring, they need help. Okay. There's tax issues. There's so many issues that they need a professional to help them. So if 10 years ago, they would never think of using any assistance. Today, they need that kind of assistance. But basically, as you move along in life, when you get to a junction where you need to make a decision, where you need to choose something, where you need to work, you need to solve a problem with on your taxes, you've got an inheritance, you want it. Then you start thinking about getting assistance. You can go to a commission-based professional, and then you know that you're not getting objective advice because a financial planner puts clients' interest before his own. He has to. Okay, so when I work with my clients, I become my client for a moment. It's an empathic a profession. I need to become him. I need to understand his values. I need to understand his aspirations, his dreams, and then I can build strategies. When you go on a trip overseas, you always plan it. What are the chances of seeing everything that you want to see on a trip if you don't plan? What are your chances of achieving what you want to achieve in your life without planning? Now, you can do this on your own if you want to do the research. But if you don't have the time and the resources and the strength, it's like you can be an accountant on your own, but you're not going to go and study accounting. I talked to one of a professor of economics, and he said to me, Dan, I could do this on my own. If I wanted to sit down and study, I'm a professor, I can do it. But I don't want to do it because I have other things to do. So I want you to do it for me. So that's
now,
what are some
of the pain points and the barriers to the average family that would benefit from family planning? Because I think that I entered this conversation also with this almost assumption that it's mainly high net worth families that are even relevant for family planning. But what I'm hearing from you is that no, actually, it makes sense that, when you're talking about the empathic need that you need to have to be aligned with the family values and the goals, whether it's being more risk averse or whether it's accomplishing something more tangible and specific. What are the barriers for the average families to be able to conduct proper planning themselves, where they would benefit from having from paying a financial planner, even if it's not a trivial thing for them to do?
I think that it's more a psychological barrier. People, because that's what I think. I mean, that's what I feel. Because anyone who's done it will never go back. Okay? So once you've actually gone into this process, you understand the value that it brings you. And usually people arrive at the door of a financial planner not because they want to plan. There are those families, but because they have an event that they need to take care of.
Right.
When you have an event, you start to understand that this event has many facets around it. So somebody can come to me and say, listen, I've got an inheritance, and now it's in real estate, and we have to divide it up between a couple of beneficiaries. Written in usually a will says take it a third each, or a half each, or a quarter each, or whatever the will says. And then you have to start thinking, well, how do we do this? The assets, some of them are in America, some of them are in Europe, some of them are, and then and they're not liquid. How do you divide up these kind of assets? What's the tax? How does it? And then when you start going into it, you understand that you can't divide everything without understanding, what you want to achieve. So each family, now we're talking, so we had one family that had a large amount of assets, moving it into 3 families. We have to discuss with the families to understand what they want to achieve. Sure. The family that goes through this process will start to understand when we sit down and define what you want to achieve in your life. I think you start a process where you start to become the person you want to be. And it could be even a very emotional event. My professor, I taught for a graduate degree in the Haifa University in financial gerontology. And my professor said to me, Dan, you guys are the social workers of the financial world. Right.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. So we're professionals. We do the maths. We understand the implications. Economics is not an exact science. We're like doctors because we can't promise the outcome. We know the methodology, and in highest probability, you will achieve what you want to achieve when you're working with a person like me. But,
yes.
Like a doctor, we don't know what the markets are going to do. No one does. If anyone tells you that they can, they can time markets and things like that, no one's managed to do it up till now. So sure. Basically, we're dealing with human emotions, and there's no control over that. So
what I love most about what you're mentioning until now is this idea that you're helping people realize where they want to get to and who they want to be, and being the social worker of the financial industry, and simply by even thinking far down the line. I'm imagining, especially for those families that don't have the privilege of being able to do all sorts of investments and have more limitations, even this simulation and further planning of what needs to happen is actually a pretty motivating factor to help get things in line and help them achieve their goals. Now, tell me a little bit about, over 42 years of experience in this field, what are some things that the average family or individual can do, either with a financial planner or alone, to even begin to think through some of these questions as exercises to become better, financial managers of their life?
Well, okay. We work aligned with a academic methodology, and basically what we do, everyone can start to think about on their own. So the first thing that we do is to try and understand the family. What kind of income do they have? What kind of expenses do they have? Okay, so that's the basics. Then you want to understand what assets they have, what liabilities they have. Okay, then how does their cash flow move around? Right. What kind of things can happen to them? After you do that, then you sit down and define what you want to achieve and what you need in order to achieve it. So let's say, one of your life goals is to retire comfortably, okay, and live the life that you're used to living. So you can continue living along with your family exactly the life that you're living and, give your grandchildren presents and help your children with homes or with education, whatever you define for your own. Then you sit down and say, okay, how with this do I do that?
Sure. Yeah.
And then that's where you get into the investment side. So we say, okay, what kind of investments can I expose myself to without risking the family's future? So I don't want to bet all of the resources of the family on the fact that the market will go up and say, okay, if the market goes up, I'll live a life that's quite good. And if the market goes down, maybe we'll have to get rid of one or two kids or something like that. So, or they won't have education or they won't be able to have. So basically and then you want diversification, because you have to understand that, betting everything on a sector, even if the sector sounds great, on a geography even, I would, diversification is sectors, geographies, asset classes, different things like real estate and infrastructure, a little bit of everything, because markets, if they go down, something always goes up. Okay, it's not everything collapses at the same time. So you want to be exposed to a wide variety of stuff, and usually not everything goes bad. So if something goes bad, something will do much better than you expected, and that way you'll achieve approximately what you want to achieve. Then you do then you want to sit down and do sensitivity studies. You say, okay, now I know what I've done. I've built some kind of a strategy around the investments. Now, what will happen if? What will happen if there's a market crash? What will happen if the dollar goes up, dollar goes down? What will happen if China disappears, or the economy, not the country? Okay, so what will happen in all these kind of things? Where am I invested? How it will affect my future? Will I be able to continue living that life? And if the answer is no, then you have to start thinking about alternatives or hedging or all kinds of strategies in order to build what we call a risk management strategy. From there, we move to creating passive income. People aren't aware. Passive income for everyone at every age should be a major focus. The only thing that can really promise your future is having something that works while you're not working. So if you're not working and you need income, if you have a strategy where you can create income for the family through dividends, through rental income, through gains that you can take out, all kinds of this, you build a strategy to create passive income, and it already starts when you're young and starts to grow as you move forward. Okay? Then, of course, tax planning is really important to get into the taxes. You don't plan tax after the event happens. You plan tax before. So you need to know implications. And you have to understand, today's world is a multi-jurisdictional world. We're everywhere. Here, you're in Stanford, in the United States. I'm in London. We're talking about Israelis. We're talking about everyone is moving around today. So we're crossing borders with our investments, with our businesses, with our lives, with our families. And this has implications which nobody deals with. So usually we talk to professionals in the country that we live in or we're working in, and they don't look at the implications. A financial planner looks at a family, so he has to look at everything. So he has to understand everything around it, and we need to do that when we're doing the tax planning. And the last thing that we do is looking at what will happen when we need to transfer this money or assets from generation to generation. And we need to plan it properly, because if we plan it properly, then the chances of it arriving, you work all your life, you accumulate assets. Who do you want to give it to? The government? To a lawyer? Or to your family? You make that decision today. Because if you leave that open, everybody will be taking a part of your pie, except for the people that you really want them to take it. And I'll tell you something about this intergenerational transfer of assets. We have children. You think they're living in harmony, and they probably are. But then there's grandchildren. When you pass away, your grandchildren or even your great-grandchildren may already be lawyers and accountants. And the worst thing that can happen is a young lawyer who thinks he knows everything and creates unbelievable turmoil in the family. And then you have partners. You don't know who they are even today. Sure. Your children and your grandchildren are going to have partners. Maybe they'll be nice people, then maybe they won't. So do you want to accumulate assets all your life to give to some stranger who's treated your family very badly? All these things, if you prepare yourself, then the chances of them happening to your family will be very small or non-existent, because, we can completely wipe out these kind of risks. When you sit down and you think about it, most people never even think about these issues. When you sit down and think about it and you build a strategy, then the chances of living the life that you want to live, that you dream about, is in much higher probability.
Very, very cool. Dan, I really want to thank you for coming and sharing with me your insights and your journey. I can definitely see your fascination and your inspiration, where you drive from. What I'm really curious about, though, is what are some words that you would use to describe yourself? Or if I were to ask any of your clients or your partners, what are 2 or 3 words that they would describe Dan Dobry?
I think that passion is really, because I'm very passionate about my profession. I'm passionate about the families it's been a great honor for me to help people. I've done 42 years. I'm also a teacher, and I talk like a teacher, unfortunately, or fortunately. So, I love teaching. I love transferring knowledge to others. I also love helping families. So I'm passionate. I think that, I care. I think that everybody understands that I really care.
It definitely resonates through the screen.
It doesn't matter. And for me, I have to tell you, because Michael, you asked me about, whether we only deal with the ultra high net worth and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I deal with them, of course, because they're the people that come to me with the most amount of problems. People, who accumulate a lot of problems as well. But for me, people are people. I don't care who they are. If someone comes to me and asks me a question, I'll always answer their questions, because it's not an issue of money. It's an issue of a calling. This is what I do. Yes. This is why This is why I exist. This is my destiny. And, and for me, it's always been a great honor to be able to help anyone.
I love it. And what are some other words that you have?
Listen, it's been a great journey for me. I think that we all should understand, that I mean, I'm not young anymore. I've been 42 years in the profession, but
Sure.
I still wake up every morning passionate about what I do, excited about the future, and I still believe with all my heart that the greatest things that I'm going to do are before me and not behind me. So I believe I think that that's a lesson that I hope my children will also get from me. We don't know how long we're going to live, but as long as we're living, enjoy what you've got, do the best you can, help wherever you can. There's a saying that said, you make a living from what you get, but you make a life from what you give.
I love it.
So always, and try and keep that balance of getting and giving. And I think that if you manage to find that balance, you'll see that you'll live a life not of value and of satisfaction, and and that's I don't think anyone can ask for more in their lives.
Dan, on this optimistic note, I really want to thank you for the time and the energy. This was fantastic and really enjoyable, and I learned a lot. Thank you for the great work that you're doing and all the families that you've impacted and continue to impact. And stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.